1998 Subaru Outback timing belt water pump replacement. I'm Brian Essen from How To Automotive, and I'm going to walk you through that process. We got this complete kit that comes with everything you need to do this job: tensioner, rollers, bearings, timing belt, water pump. And here's the part number for you. So I'm going to get started by removing the radiator fans. First, I'm going to remove the reservoir overflow bottle here. So I'm going to remove the tins here and pull the bottle out and just set it aside. And then I got the coolant reservoir out. I'm going to go ahead and lift the car up and unplug the electrical connectors for the fans. If you're doing this at home, you don't have a hoist, you can just jack up the front end a little bit and crawl under. You can get to the connectors. So now that you got it in the air, you can go ahead and unplug the electrical connectors. They kind of lift, the tabs lift up like that, and then you can unplug them. And while you're down here, you can go ahead and remove the lower bolt here, and you can get to this one here. So go ahead and remove those. Now that you got the electrical fans disconnected, you can take out the bolts here, a little below on the fan on the driver's side. We're going to remove this one first. And the bolt is here. After you get those all unbolted, you can lift the fan out. So when I was coming out with the fans, I was snagging on these covers a little bit. So I went ahead and removed the tins here, and you can pull this cover off, and you loosen the 12mm bolt here for the alternator, and take the 10mm bolt out here, and you can flip this out of the way. And now you can maneuver your fan. After you get this fan on the passenger side unbolted, slide it back towards the driver's side, and you can lift it out. Now you can loosen up your belt. So you would loosen the belt, the alternator bolt, the tensioner bolt here, and then you can loosen the screw here, and that'll loosen the alternator belt, and you can take that off. To get the AC belt off, you're going to loosen the tensioner bolt here, and you're going to screw it counterclockwise, and that's going to pull the pulley upwards, and that'll get the tension off the belt. Now that the belts are off, we're going to go ahead and remove this bracket here just by removing the two 12s here. Okay, the next step is to get the crank pulley off. You're going to use a 22mm socket. I'm going to show you a little trick on how to get this out. 2mm socket in there, your breaker bar, and you're going to pull the wiring harness up out of the way. So what's going to happen is you're going to have somebody crank the engine, and this breaker bar is going to swing up and hit the frame, and it'll back the bolt off for you. And I'll demonstrate that. Okay, go ahead. Now you can just spin the bolt up by hand and go ahead and remove your crank pulley. So now that we got the crank pulley off, we're ready to remove the timing covers. So we're going to start with the just by removing all the 10mm bolts all the way around. So you'll maybe start at one corner and kind of just work your way around counterclockwise or clockwise, whatever way you feel like doing it, until you remove all the bolts, and then you can pull the covers all off. And make note on how they lay in there, so one cover may lay over the top of another. So now we need to line our timing marks up. So go ahead and reinstall the crank bolt, and get you a ratchet with a 22mm or 7-inch socket to put on it. So I'm going to rotate the engine clockwise until the one with the two hash marks line up over here, and then you'll see the hash mark here will be in the ballpark. So I was basically 180 out. So I'm going to rotate the crank around. And somebody's already previously done this job and marked it. To make it easy for me to get it in the ballpark. So now you can see my alignment mark, and then there's a little hash mark right there on the edge of the crank sensor. So that's lined up. Now if you look over here, the two hash marks, so you can see it has two hash marks, and that one has two hash marks, so those are lined up. And then on the lower crank here, there's a hash mark here, and then a little further in on the timing cover there's a little slash mark, so that's a line, so that means that's lined up properly. And on the top, this one has a single slash mark, and it lines up with the single slash mark on the timing cover, the inner cover. So you're going to do the same thing. So this has a single hash mark here, and it lines up with the single here, and these two on the right side, they have let's see if I can get it down there. They have the dual line hash marks, and you can see the dual lines there, and actually you can see mine's actually off a tooth, so it's not lined up. So once you get yours in the park, if yours are not lined up like this particular one, you get it in the ballpark, and then you're going to remove the idler pulley and remove the belt. Also recommended that you make your own timing marks, reference marks to help. Some of the marks can be hard to see, so you can make some of your own reference marks before you take it apart. So now that you got that done, you can go ahead and pull off your idler pulley. And once you got the idler pulley off, you can go ahead and remove the belt all completely. Now that you got the belt off, you can go ahead and remove the idler pulley because we're going to replace that. Go ahead and remove the 14mm bolt here that holds the tensioner on, and remove the tensioner. You're also going to remove the geared idler pulley. Now I'm going to lift it back up and go ahead and remove the thermostat and the hose right here going, the vent hose going to the water pump. Go ahead and remove those two, and you're going to need a bucket to catch all the coolant. To remove the thermostat, I'm just going to remove the two 10mm bolts here, and it's going to make quite a bit of a mess, kind of rain on you, so you got to kind of be prepared for it. Jump out of the way, and then, like I said, remove the hose above it. If you got the hose of the thermostat out, you're going to remove the 6 bolts on the water pump, so you'll start like on the one side and just kind of work in a circular motion. So you start here and kind of work around the water pump until you remove all 6 of the bolts, and then the water pump will come off. Now that you got the water pump out, you're going to go ahead and clean up your mating surface here and clean off all the old gasket material. Now that you got the mating surface cleaned up, you can go ahead and put your new gasket on. You kind of just hold it in place and start the bolt, and then put your new water pump back in and go ahead and tighten up all 6 of the mounting bolts. So after bolting the water pump up, go ahead and start the hose and put your lower hose and thermostat back in and bolt that back up. Now that the water pump is bolted back up, we need to put our idler pulleys and our little cam pulley here back on. And we want to put Loctite on the bolts. My kit came with it. Yours may or may not come with it. So you're going to take the Loctite and you're going to put a little dab on each one of the bolts threads, and that helps prevent the bolts from backing back out. And then we're going to bolt them back in the spots where we took them out of, and we're going to torque them down to 28 foot-pounds. So after installing the idler pulleys, the 3 of them, now you can install the tensioner, put the blue Loctite on the bolts, and you're going to bolt this up at 18 foot-pounds. And don't remove the pin from the tensioner yet. And also make sure that you don't lose the washer on the back side. So now we're going to put our timing belt back on, and I wanted to show you that the new timing belts are going to have these little hash marks on them, and that's going to go on the cams. So they're going to line up with the marks on the cams, and also on the crank it's going to have one, but it's going to have the dotted lines. So the dotted lines line up with the crank pulley, and the 2 hash marks line up with the cam pulleys. And so you want to do it where the letters are facing, the right way. There's most likely tools that lock the cams into place, but I don't have them, so I'm doing this without it. And the way I'm doing that is I got my crank mark lined up, so I rotated under the idler pulley up and over, and I rotated the this is all moving on me and spinning on it, so I used wrenches, and I got it back onto the mark where I want it, and I got my hash mark on my belt lined up on it. And then I used a pair of these vice grips with just some fuel line clipped to it, so I crimped it to it. And then I rotated the bottom crank pulley to where it's supposed to be. So now I got my hash mark lined up with the little hash mark on the pulley here. So you want to make sure that's lined up. Once that's achieved, then you can rotate it around the water pump and around the little idler pulley, and then take the belt up and over this pulley, and then you're going to hold the lower cam into place with a wrench and get the hash. There's going to be the little hash mark like this. You'll get that lined up down here, And once that's lined up, then you rotate with the, you'll hold the top cam with the wrench. And it may take two people, may actually have to have somebody hold the actual cams into place with one wrench, and then while you maneuver the other cam, and then you get it. So once you get where all these lines on the new timing belt are lined up with the lines on the cam pulleys, you'll know it's right. And also you'll have the two notches. So like if you look on this side, you got two notches, they're pointing towards each other. So as long as the two notches are pointing towards each other and the single notches at the top, you'll be okay. And then you can see how the dotted line goes onto the crank pulley where the little mark is. Okay, now that you got this hash mark lined up with that, and then you come down to the bottom cam, and if you look down there with the bottom cam with the mirror, and you take your mirror and you put it in here, and you can see the yellow mark is lined up with the slash mark right there. So that indicates that those two cams are on, and then the two hash marks right here with the double lines are lined up. So that indicates it's on. And you look at the crank pulley, make sure it's lined up with the little hash mark right there. If that's all lined up, then you come over to the top crank pulley and you see that the single line is matched up with the yellow line to the top groove. And then you use your mirror once again, and you see the line is lined up with the groove on the cam pulley. Now that indicates that everything is in line and timed together. So now you can go ahead and remove your the grenade pin here. Once you pull the pin out, then you can go ahead and if you use clamps like I did to clamp the belt on place, or if you use a cam tool to lock the cams in, then you can remove all that. Now that that's all on there, what I like to do is I like to take the crank pulley and rotate it around by hand. And then when you do that, you're just going to line it back up to the marks, the white marks that you made here. Make sure these line back up, and the crank pulley lines back up. And the yellow marks, once you rotate it around, will not line back up because they'll start moving one or two teeth off. You don't have to worry about that. You're just worried about the white marks. If that all lines back up again after you crank it around by hand, you're good to go. You can start putting your timing covers back on. So as you rotate the crank, the crank will rotate 2 revolutions for every 1 revolution that the cams do. So after cranking this around the crank, so I went 1, 2, and line the marks back up. So that mark is lined back up. The little hash mark here is lined back up perfectly here. See if you can get this in here so you can see it. So you can see the hash mark there is lined back up. Now you come over here to the right cam, and you can see the white mark is lined up with the hash mark here. And then what you want to see is the two alignment marks here lined back up with each other, which they do. So you can see the 2 marks here and here lined back up. So that indicates it's perfect. And you'll look for the same thing on the passenger side. So you can see the white mark that originally we made, and it lines back up perfectly. And then if you look down below, you can see the hash marks line up perfectly. That indicates that this engine is perfectly in time. And now I just double checked my timing, so now I can put my covers back on. So I'll start by putting the middle cover on first, bolt that up, and then put the 2 outer covers on and bolt those up. Now that the timing covers are back on, we can go ahead and put our crank pulley back on and torque the nut down to 130 foot-pounds. So to hold the crank pulley in place while you torque it down, you're going to need a spanner wrench like this, and it fits inside the hole on the crank, and you kind of wedge it behind one of the pulleys like that, and then you put your socket through and you torque it down. Now that that's done, you can go ahead and put your tensioner pulley for the AC bracket back on with the 212s. Bolt that back up, and go ahead and slip the belt on and adjust the belt for the AC. So go ahead and put that on, and then you put your belt on, and then you tighten so you'll tighten this, and that'll drive the pulley down and tighten the tension on it. Then after that, you tighten the 12 millimeter in the center here. And you also want to make sure that you don't over tighten these things and burn the bearings up on the compressor or on the pulley itself. So now you can go ahead and put on your alternator belt, tighten this, and that'll lift up the alternator and tighten the belt. The same thing, you don't want to over tighten it. And then once you get that tight, go ahead and tighten the 12mm bolt here. But we're still going to leave this one loose because here in a little bit we're going to put that cover that went on, and you need this loose. Now you can go ahead and slip your fan for the passenger side in first, and go ahead and bolt the top bolts here and the one under here, and then we'll lift the car up. We'll put the other fan in right here and start the bolt here and here, and you can get this bolt here, the bolt that goes here from up top. And then once we get all that bolted up, we'll lift the car back up, plug our fans back in, and then put the bolts that went on the bottom back in. After the fans are all bolted back up and plugged back in, now you can put your coolant reservoir overflow bottle in. Just stab it back in the little hole down there and then bolt the 2 bolts on. After that, we're going to put the covers back on here. Put the longer metal bracket on first, and so you hook it behind the alternator bolt there, and you start your bolt, and then you can tighten both of these up, and then after that you slip your plastic cover on, and then it bolts onto the... So now you can fill your car up with coolant and start the car and run it until the thermostat opens up and the coolant level drops to the proper level. And you also want to make sure that the cooling fans come on and run. You want to do this without the AC on. And you can have the heater on but not the blower if you want to. You have it on low. And once you bleed all the air out of the system, once the level drops down after the thermostat opens up and you fill it up to the proper level, that completes the timing belt and water pump on a 1998 Subaru Outback with a dual overhead cam. I'm Brian Essick from How To Automotive, and I'd like to thank you for watching my videos, and as always, it's my pleasure.